Welcome back to my channel. My name is STACEY FLOWERS and I am a student of Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. I am on a journey to become 100% debt free. My current debt is $79,700. I'm on baby step number 2 to repay all of my debts. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my feelings about how much money I'm earning. So if you are interested in that, please keep watching. So, if you have made it past the intro, that means you are here because you want to hear about my feelings about earning as much money as I am earning currently. For those of you guys who have not seen any of my other videos, my income for this month is $20,000 net. This is the second month of this year that I have earned that much money. So if you are doing the math, I have definitely made a salary in 2 months, and it is quite intense. And I want to talk about my feelings. I don't want to talk about my feelings, but I need to talk about my feelings because I heal very well through talking out loud. I need to talk about my feelings because this has always been a heavily emotional journey and experience for me. And if you're anything like me, you may be thinking that when you make the money, all the feelings just get better and they just feel good. And that is not my experience. And I have been searching like high and low for information and content about what I'm experiencing, and I just don't hear it anywhere. However, even though I'm not hearing any content about it, I can see the symptoms of it because there are consistent symptoms among people who, and I wouldn't say I suddenly came into a bunch of money. Obviously, you guys have seen me consistently work over the years. You have seen me, you know, like I'm not saying sudden, like, oh, I don't know where it came from. I know exactly where it came from, but there is an exponential growth to my income that feels very sudden. And any person who suddenly experiences a lot more money than what they're used to, there are some common threads and patterns that they're displaying. And so when I sort of noticed them within myself, I was like, okay, you really got to do something about this. And so I was like, okay, let me talk to my therapist, let me talk to my friends, let me journal. And I did all of the things that I normally do. And one of the things that I realized, like over the weekend, my younger sister had come to visit me and my nieces were talking and they were just saying some things. And then what I realized is that like one of the things that helped me the most, especially as it related to money, was just opening my mouth and talking about it too. And I'm talking to, yes, you all as a community, but you guys know so much of this journey has been about holding me accountable to staying the course via documenting it. And so I was just like, all right, you just don't have to talk about it. But it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about because the assumption is you make a whole bunch of money, you don't have any problems. And if you do have problems, you really don't have any negative feelings. But the truth about my experience is that nope, I'm feeling more negative feelings than positive feelings. And I know that if I don't express them, they are not going to be processed in the way that I process, and then thus I'm not going to be able to continue to make more money. And ultimately I want to continue to make more money. I want to be a millionaire, but I'm having a very difficult time being someone who's a 6-figure earner. So if I'm having a difficult time being a 6-figure earner, the chances of me allowing myself to be a millionaire is slim to none. So this is a part of that process. So without further rambling, the top 4 feelings, and I'm going to explain them individually, that are my dominant feelings about how much money I'm earning, are insecure, and I'm already getting emotional, man. All right. Are insecure, angry. I wrote down ashamed and guilty, and I want to say guilty, but the true feeling is ashamed and uncomfortable. And you may be listening to this and you may be like, what? Those are the feelings? Yeah, listen, imagine feeling them, okay? Like imagine making $20,000 in a month, working part-time. I didn't want to cry. In a company that you built, this is the dream, and your dominant feelings are insecure, angry, ashamed, and uncomfortable. Kind of sucks. And there's probably like a secondary layer of feelings because of how much I make. I don't feel like there's a place for me to talk to people who can commiserate with this felt sense, because so many of the people that I love and adore dream of making what I'm making, and then to hear me, for lack of a better expression, complain about it by expressing the negative emotion that I'm having about it, it just, it is, and it was very isolating, and very difficult. It's difficult for me right now. You see me stuttering or stumbling over my words. Like, I feel not awesome about having, feel not awesome about having negative emotions about earning money. But this is what I know to be true. If it was this great, pleasant, easy, super fantastic experience when people earn money, you wouldn't see the symptoms. You wouldn't see people having negative reactions to having so much money, right? Whether it's a lottery winner or somebody who suddenly becomes famous and they come into a whole bunch of money, like, a lot of the reason for that implosion, and you're like looking at them and you're like, what's going on? But the reason for that implosion, my guess, experiencing, because I'm nowhere near that, but just experiencing what I'm experiencing, is because they are experiencing a lot of negative emotions that don't get acknowledged and don't get validated because no one's talking about it. And the people who don't have it, there are more people who don't have it or access to it than the people who do have it and have access to it. So this is a very isolating, uncomfortable experience. That's what I'm gonna say about that. So the feelings of feeling insecure, and yes, so the first feeling that I feel is insecure. And I am not an insecure person at all. It just feels, it's like there's like a extreme discomfort in my personhood around the money. And there's an extreme insecurity around it. And even with respect to like how, and I think that the feeling of being insecure is what has impacted my consistency with video content, because I'm like, I don't feel secure enough to do video content. So I don't want to, show you my home. I don't want to show my face. I don't want to share any aspects of my life in the way that I normally would, because internally I'm feeling very insecure. And I would say probably the most dominant felt sense of insecurity is that, like, okay, well, you're making all this money, but you don't look like you're making all this money. And that is a very, I was surprised, intense, sort of pressure-filled emotional space. Like, I was just like, I didn't think that would matter to me. Like, generally, I don't care about what people think, but apparently when I'm in a space that I don't understand, I do care about what people think about me. And in me caring, that's like feeding the insecurity. And so I'm dealing with it, and I'm about 95% over it, because if I wasn't over it, I wouldn't be sharing this video. But dominant feeling is just straight up insecurity. I'm like, man, and all of these sudden shoulds, like, you should have this, you should have that. Like, even when I think of like my speaker fee and what I am able to request as a speaker fee, I was feeling very I was feeling like, oh, if you're gonna ask that much, then you need to be driving this, you need to be living here, you need to be acting this way. And I think that that's a part of the problem. I think that that's a part of the problem with money in general, is that there's this idea in my mind that once you have a certain amount, you're supposed to be a certain way. And the truth of the matter is that has no bearing on money whatsoever. And that's something that I'm learning to tolerate, I'm learning to embrace, and I'm learning to deal with. But insecure is not a great feeling. I mean, even I remember when I first made my first 10K month, and my younger sister had called me and she was just like, hey, do you feel safe? You do your walks and stuff. Are you safe? And I was like, oh, wow, why wouldn't I be safe? And she was just like, Stacey, you're telling the internet that you make a whole bunch of money. And never have I ever thought about like my actual safety as it relates to sharing these dollars and cents until she brought it to my attention. And so even that sort of gave me this space of insecurity, but I dealt with it because I'm like, it's 10K, that's fine. I mean, obviously I don't carry that on me, but I'm not gonna lie. When you tell the internet you made 20K in a month, things get weird. So things got weird, and I was like, don't know if I want to keep documenting this journey. And then it was, okay, figure out how to document the journey without telling you guys how much I'm making. But I'm like, that's a lie. Like, I don't want to do that. So it just sort of bred a lot of insecurity. So that's the dominant feeling. I'm processing it. I'm moving that feeling of insecurity to security, obviously feeling closer to that because I'm sharing this with you. Second to feeling insecure, angry. And when I say I am angry, I am pissed off to the highest level of pissivity. I remember mentioning a few videos before that I was having like some stress alopecia, and I do think that the stress alopecia was as it relates to the transition of being an empty nester and so on and so forth. But I didn't realize that some of the stress alopecia was because of how angry I was, and I didn't know how to acknowledge what I was angry about. And what I'm angry about is that, like, now that I'm on this side of making money, when I say nearly everything that I was taught about making money is a flat out lie, I am like, yo, what? Like, it when I say my blood boils about it sometimes, because it is so wrong. It is such an error. It is like, like there's a place that you get to when you earn a certain amount of money where it just, like, so for example, and I talk about this in the Money Mindset Manual, which is now only available in my coaching program, so that way, as I'm growing up in my understanding of money and my mindset is shifting, I can constantly sprinkle that down on my coaching clients. But in the Money Mindset Manual, I talk about how, like, there is a mindset that you have when you work or when you're on welfare. And I was on welfare. I was often on welfare as a child. I was on welfare for my initial adult years. I was a teen mom, so that was a part of my experience. I moved from welfare to, you know, having a really good hourly rate to moving into a salary. And in the Money Mindset Manual, I talk about the 3 easiest ways to make money. And one of the ways I talk about it is trading your hours for dollars. Another way I talk about it is trading your value for dollars. And then the third way I talk about it is trading your ideas for dollars. And I was conditioned to believe that the way that you make money is to exchange your hours for dollars. I am learning that that is the hardest way in all the land to make money, is to trade your hours for dollars. And it makes me angry because there are a lot of people in my community who believe, and there's nothing you can do to change their mind. Like, they just are like, no, this is where money comes from, this is how. And it's just like living a life that is the evidence that says that this is the hardest way, if not like, I'm like, why doesn't everybody know this? Why didn't anybody tell us this? Like, why is this information not easily accessible? And so then I'm angry about it, and then I'm angry at myself because I'm like, well, why aren't you telling people? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm right. I could be wrong. This could be a fluke. But the more and more and more I get into it, like, no, there is a very specific pieces of knowledge that have been left out of the experience of becoming an adult that shouldn't have been left out of the experience of becoming an adult as it relates to making money. And I'm learning it, and the more I learn, like, the more pissed off I am, because I'm like, you played me. And I don't know who you is, but I feel played. I feel pretty played, because here's what, guys, like, if you think about where my money is, soon my money is going to be making money for me. So I'm not even going to be in the space of trading hours for dollars, time for dollars, or value for dollars. I'm going to be in the space of just my money is making money for me. Imagine living your whole life at a level where money makes money for you, and then you see these other people exchanging their actual time for money. Like, it is a mind-blowing, soul-searing experience to be in the gap between that and to not know how to disseminate what I feel like I'm experiencing to other people, so that other people around me who I love and adore can be where I'm at. Because it's one thing to experience it and understand it intellectually, but it's a completely different thing to try to teach it, because it sounds like, I mean, it nearly sounds like gibberish to me, but it has to sound like gibberish to somebody who literally 2 years ago, how I'm earning money, I wouldn't have believed. My mind wouldn't have been able to contain the information. And so there's so much anger there. And it wasn't until I calmed down and I figured out what I could do about what I felt was a gross maybe what I could do about what I felt like was an intentional leaving specific groups of people without information. Like I needed to figure out what I could do about that. And now that I figured out what I could do about that, I'm like, okay, I'm not as angry anymore. Less anger I have, the less stress alopecia I'm experiencing. So, and it's not good to have anger around money, because money, just like everything else, like it will flow in your life and it won't flow in your life. And one thing to surely shut down the flow is anger. And I was blood boiling, and the more angry I became, the more I rejected it, because it was like, if you do it was like I was trying to hold on to what I was taught, but it didn't fit anymore. And it became to this point where it's like, you're literally being foolish if you hold on to these thoughts. Like, you're literally being foolish if you hold on to these ways. Why are you holding on to these ways? Which again made me more angry, because I'm like, have I been living all of my adult life as a fool? Like, you know, that's where the whole like, who played me came along. So anger. The third feeling that is a dominant feeling is ashamed. And again, I went back and forth from ashamed and guilty. But the way that I understand it, guilty is you've done something wrong. Ashamed is you are wrong. And I would love to say that the felt sense is that I've done something wrong, but I don't feel like I did anything wrong. I literally feel like I am wrong, because now, based off where my income is, and essentially where my income is going to be potentially, I have become a part of a group of people that are hated. Like, I mean, people do not like people who make a bunch of money. And I'm one of those people now, and I'm gonna be one of those people who makes a bunch of money and doesn't have debt. So like, it's gonna get intense. Now, I was never one of the people who talked about that group of people, because I understood, like, or I understand that you can't talk about the thing that you want. So you can't be like, you know those rich people. It's like, if you're gonna say, like, your psychology won't let you become the thing that you were actively negatively talking about. So I was never one of the people that actively negatively talked about rich people. I was always like, I want to be rich, I want to be wealthy, I want to leave a legacy for my kids and my family. Like, I've always desired that, and I've always wanted that. But stepping onto the ground of that and living at a level where people simply dislike you because you earn a significant amount, and it's rough. Like, I was like, whoa. And I think there is a felt sense of being ashamed, because I don't work as hard as anyone in my life right now. I do not work as hard as anyone in my life right now. And that makes me feel like I'm wrong. Again, and I had mentioned this in a different video, but a core value, like if you just looked up the Flowers family tree, a core value of ours is hard work. Like, we are built on hard work. And you guys saw that with respect to the way that I sort of took on this journey. There's very much a, but it's like, I don't work hard, and it's very hard to come from my family culture, come from the Black culture, come from the culture of being a Black woman. Like, it's very hard to come from that culture and just be like, oh yeah, I don't work hard, and I'm okay with that. And like, the truth is, I am okay with it. Obviously it works for me, but it's a very hard space to stand in now that the truth of that, because remember, when I wasn't making as much of this money, I wasn't this uncomfortable. I was just like, I work part-time, it's fine. But now that I work part-time and I'm making a whole bunch of money, I'm much more uncomfortable. I'm much more ashamed of that, because it's like, oh, I must be wrong because I'm now them and they who are not doing enough, and so on and so forth. And so it's like all this stuff like goes on in my head, and it really sucks. So that's where the ashamed feeling comes from. And then obviously those feelings culminate into an overwhelming sense of being uncomfortable. And in me being uncomfortable, like, I'm much more muzzled with my words. I'm much more muzzled with my thoughts. I'm just muzzled in general, because I'm like, well, you can't talk about that because you're wrong, right? Like, if I feel ashamed on the inside for how much I'm earning, the thoughts that I'm having, I'm like, oh, you can't talk about it because you now are one of them, or one of they, so you can't. Whereas before, it's like, oh, I can talk about anything that I want to talk about because I'm reaching for something. But now that I'm in a space that a group of people that often gets talked about, it's like, no, you're no longer allowed because you don't understand. It's just like, oh, hey, hold up. I've been six-figure earning for less. Well, yeah, less than 2 years. I think I still understand. I spent all of my adult life not earning six figures. Well, I guess no, there was a couple years that I earned six figures before that, but it was different. This is a different six figures because this six figures, I'm managing it, and so I can feel my six figures. The other six figures, I was hustling. I mean, I had so many jobs. I had so much work, so it was a very different experience with that six figures. And I do think that if I was working harder or hustling or nearly burnt out, that I would not have such negative emotion about how much I'm earning. But because I am at ease and I'm at peace and I have a lot of leisure in my life, and a lot of the people around me do not, there's just this felt sense of shame and this felt sense of insecurity. Which again, how I say, it culminates into just being very uncomfortable. And then out of a place of being uncomfortable, I don't want to be on YouTube. I don't want to talk about the changes that I've made in my lifestyle. I mean, not that see, look at me. I was just about to try to defend it. You see how that, I don't want to do that. I just want to live, right? But I don't want to talk about the changes that I've made. I don't want to talk about, mistakes that I've made, it was like when I didn't have as much, it was so much easier. I just wasn't insecure about it. But now that I have more, it's like there's this huge responsibility to get it right. And I have to realize, and this is what I realized, which is ultimately inspiring this video, is that it's just me. It's just in my head. No one that I love, respect, and admire has said any of this stuff to me. No one that I don't know but also respect and admire has said any of this stuff to me. This is just stuff that's going on in my head. And the best way to get this stuff out of my head is to talk to you guys about it, because I do think that a lot of people are rejecting money. Like, a lot of people are under earning, and you don't know you're under earning because you would feel ashamed if you earn more than your mentor, or you would feel ashamed if you earn more than your mother, or you would feel guilty if you earn more than your romantic partner. A lot of people are not negotiating and not asking for more in their own rates within their own company because you feel incredibly insecure. A lot of people are not being consistent in the work that they know that they can put out to serve people, if you're anything like me, because you're pissed off. Like, that's the other reason that you guys weren't getting a lot of content. I was pissed. And again, I couldn't figure out what to do with my anger. So I didn't want to just be angry into the ether. That's pretty useless. So it's like some people are quite literally pissed, and in you sitting in anger about anything. Like, my anger is directed at the lack of this knowledge being disseminated properly, but your anger can be about anything. But anger in and of itself blocks the flow of money. It's a very low vibrating emotion. Even though all emotions are amazing, it's still a very low vibrating emotion. And when is the last time somebody was like, ooh, that waiter is so angry, I'm gonna give them a bigger tip? You don't. Like, ooh, they cleaned my car, they were so angry, let me give them some more money. No, like, we don't interact with things of anger with a sense of like generosity, right? Like, that is not an emotion that attracts that or pulls that in. It's an emotion that repels it. And so if you are someone who's sitting around angry, that is you actively repelling a level of money that you would otherwise be able to experience in your life. And what I'm realizing now is that some of us are doing that unconsciously. Some of us, myself, are doing that consciously. Like, I was consciously, up and until this very moment, rebelling the millions because I am feeling insecure, angry, ashamed, and uncomfortable with the six figures. And I don't want to feel that way, especially after today. And now that I've talked about it, I probably won't. I mean, there'll be some residual, but I heal very well through talking out loud. Now my position, my point of view is out, and that is all that I have to say. I would love to continue this conversation. If you have ever earned more money than you thought possible in a month, would love to hear how you feel about it. Did you immediately experience, and here's the thing, immediately I felt positive emotion. I was like, oh my God, mind blown, this is so wonderful. But once it settled in what I did, I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Then also once I shared it out loud, I mean, my mind exploded and everything in my life got really shaky because I was like terrified. But I'm already feeling better. So I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye.